Hello, everybody, and welcome to Miskatonic University Radio, the podcast and live stream exploring fantasy flight games as Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm Dane.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Ben.
And today, listeners, we're continuing our trek through the Arctic wilderness. The first stop is the Players of the Edge of the Earth expansion.
Do you mean this right here?
Yes,
this.
Dan. I mean,
Edge of the Earth Investigator expansion.
Did you go to Europe to procure that and buy it from the hands of black market?
I didn't. I am the only one of the three of us host mates who managed to get a hold of this from England. Dane tried to do it but failed, and also probably somehow committed financial crimes in the course of doing it. And Ben, I think, just didn't want it bad enough. So here we are.
I heavily implied that it'd be great if it was given to me tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We should celebrate Ben getting older tomorrow. Happy birthday, Ben.
Ben's getting older tomorrow?
Yeah.
Technically I'm getting older all the time. It's a constant thing. We're just, marking the Earth, the circling of the Earth.
And I feel like the sun. Only age on their birthday.
Yeah, wait. So you get older a little bit every day instead of once a year?
I distribute it out. Weird. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever met someone before who claimed that. Yeah, that's weird.
Is it the New Jersey? Is that what happens in New Jersey?
Is New Jersey the beach from old? Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to do some more research about this.
But, did you go and see Old somehow, Dan? For some reason?
Come on, you would have to. Absolutely not.
Listen, I completely botched the intro. So the first stop is the player cards of the Edge of the Earth. Today we're kicking things off with the Guardian cards and the Mystic cards, which is normally not how we would do it, but we're doing it this way because of logistical reasons.
I tried to evenly distribute the cards.
There's a lot of new cards, so we're going to be doing like 5-ish of these episodes probably. So if you like hearing us talk about cards, that's going to be a thing that you can do a lot. And in fact, maybe we should start doing that right now, right?
Let's jump right in. Let's get going.
Cards. Who likes cards?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about some of these here cards that we got. So the first Guardian card is an asset called Geared Up. It has no cost and it's level 0 because it's a permanent. It's a talent and it says permanent, limit 1 per deck. Purchase at deck creation, which is I think new. Force, when your first turn of the game begins, play any number of item assets from your hand, reducing the cost of each by 1. During this turn, you have 3 fewer actions to take. And the art is a guy who really likes knives.
Yeah, that's an enemy in Call of Cthulhu.
Is it? Is it knife guy? Is it like Mega Man, like Knife Man or something?
Well, I mean, there's very clearly like a blood stain on his arm, so you can tell like he's kind of sadistic and he
it's like a handprint,
knife lovingly.
Right?
Yeah. Somebody was like trying to get away from him.
He has a really weird expressionless expression on his face, where he could be just a guy that takes good care of his knives, and I don't know. Hard to tell.
I kind of feel like those knives are like trophies from his victims. He's like staring at it almost lovingly, like, oh yeah,
he is. Yeah,
I got this knife now.
What Farnese does every Sunday night.
Well, so okay. So are you guys going to be putting Geared Up in your deck at deck creation?
I think you'd have to have a very heavy item deck that also isn't like too expensive to try to justify this, right? Because you'd want to be able to basically be able to play 3 items, right? At least
if you're going to lose all your actions. 1 items with this, it is terrible. If you play 3 items with this, it's okay. If you play 2, I feel like it's kind of like mediocre.
I feel like the pro play is getting this, and the only 2 items in your deck are kukris, which require actions in order to do extra damage. So if your turn 1 is play kukri, lose 2 actions, and then later lose more actions with kukri, you can't win.
That's terrible. Yeah, don't do that.
This is a hard one. All the classes get one of these new like purchase the deck creation permanents, and this one I think is one of the harder ones to figure out how to build a deck around. It doesn't even sync that well with other cards in this expansion, right? Because particularly no.
I mean, if you're playing like, oh, if it's like a duo with Bob Jenkins, and I'm just gonna play like the all items deck, then maybe. I mean, I'm happy that they're printing these because it's another decision that you get to make when you're building a deck that could lead you to make more interesting deck choices. So in general, I'm all for it, but I just wish that this was like a little bit more pushed, maybe, because it just feels like this is gonna whiff a lot, right? Like with a normal deck, what have you got, like maybe 8 or 9 items, and then you've got a lot of allies that you'd love to play that you can't play on turn one. You've got a lot of like talents or other assets that you can't play. You've maybe got some events that you'd like to play, like an emergency cache or a stand together or something. So it's very restrictive, and the ultimate payoff, if it works perfectly, is 3 resources, which is nice, but I don't know, there's other ways to get money.
So
Yeah.
I mean, for this expansion, like Lily could take this, but maybe this is more for Daniela, because Daniela starts as a guardian, right? And she goes into Survivor, and Survivors do have a bunch of cheap items.
This is true. This is true. Yeah.
Like
but if they're so cheap, like the teddy bear and the leather coat, then this does nothing.
Right. if there's zero, I was thinking like lock picks or some of the guns, some of the stuff that came in Stella's deck. There was a couple cheap things in there. And
you mean the keyring, the old keyring?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So
yeah, I mean, I was almost thinking like the other thing is if you could play this and Studious, which Joe Diamond could do, or like Rex, then Studious is going to make it more likely you're not going to whiff, but it's still just you're not going to get Studious until halfway through the game probably.
Yeah, or maybe in a Skids or something, like a rogue that can get to what's the rogue one? Another day, another dollar, so they have more money so they can play some more expensive stuff.
My thought with it was that, like, I think the only person that I consider taking this in is Yorick, because he tends to have a lot of items. Like, he has, like, you could use knives, you could use, the upgraded armor, or not the upgraded armor, I'm sorry, just like leather coat, I guess would be pretty bad. But like, there's stuff that Yorick can play. Like, he's if anybody's gonna take it, like maybe him and like Leo, because Leo has also access to a lot of good assets, like Lucky Cigarette Case, and like he needs guns down anyways, but he's gonna have a lot of allies. When I originally saw this, I thought it was Ever Vigilant, and I was really confused because I was like, this is just level 0 level Ever Vigilant every time. But because it's items only, really hard sell.
Yeah, you could even do the Ever Vigilant plus what's the Guardian card that everyone loves so much, even though it's like
stand together.
Yeah, you can do that. That with Ever Vigilant is like a better version of this, right? That costs more XP, but
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I think it's limited to which investigators can take it, but I like the design in terms of like a trade off that you are like have to design your deck around.
One last thing before we move on, because we do have like a million cards to talk about. Because there's a bunch of cards we're going to talk about later that trigger off of the number of different class cards you have in play. Is it possible that like if you're somebody that can take this somehow, like one of the Dunwich investigators that has open slots, and you kind of just want like something that you don't have to find in your deck to play, and it just immediately increases the number of class cards that you have? Is it part of some janky deck that uses those?
Do these count?
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, your permanents all count for those. The synergy cards. We'll see some of them later.
Like, it's really a stretch, but like I could maybe imagine some very janky deck wanting it for that reason.
Is there like a Lola deck that tries to use the synergy cards and gets all 5 of these?
That's what I was thinking.
All 5 of these.
Like, as the Dunwich 5 investigators, can you just take all 5 of your slots, or I guess 4 of your slots as like all of the other permanents?
If you wanted to.
I think they should taboo Lola, not to make her better, but to say that she must take all 5 of these new class permanents at deck creation, just to make things more fun.
All right. Well, let's take a look at some of the other cards.
Let's go for it. So the next card is called Toe to Toe. It is a Guardian level 0 event. It has a combat icon and an agility icon. It is a spirit and a tactic. You all know what that means. It is a fight. This attack deals +1 damage and is automatically successful. As an additional cost to perform this attack, the chosen enemy makes an attack against you. Sometimes the only way out is through. So yeah, this is one of the cards that they included to aid Daniela, right? That's kind of her whole thing, is getting smacked and then kind of getting rewarded for being a tank. And it's pretty fine. Also, Nathaniel Cho could probably make good use of it because it's a 3 damage in 1 hit.
It's 3 damage, and he can also like you can combo this with like a counter punch or other cards that trigger off an enemy attacking you, which I think you'll see a couple more of those. So
yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know if I'd use it. Yeah, I don't know if I'd use it outside those two. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough call because like you have to have either the allies or like health / sanity pool to do so, and like outside of somebody maybe like Yorick who has like Jess and Peter or something, but even still, it's like kind of a little too niche, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that this is likely worth playing in Daniela or in Nathaniel maybe, but I think the bottom line is unless you're desperate to play as many fight events as you possibly can, like Nathaniel, or unless you not just don't care if you get attacked, but actively want to be attacked, like Daniela, you probably shouldn't play this because like a fight event needs to be better than just swinging with your kind of normal weapon for it to be worth a slot in your deck, right? Mm-hmm. And this is like the automatic success is nice, but if you're playing like standard or hard, like not expert, you can probably just commit something and pass. And +1 damage is nice, but that's the same thing you get from like a 45 or a machete or a 32. So again, I would basically only play this if you either really, really want all the fight events in the game, or if you're like Daniela and you actually want to get attacked.
Yeah, the other person who wants to get attacked is Calvin, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Calvin,
I mean, Calvin at this point, there's a luxury. There's such a huge list of things that Calvin can play that can cause him to take damage and horror that this would have to compete against those. And I've never played Calvin, so I'm not the best person to decide. But yeah, I could see Calvin playing it.
It is yet another card that Calvin could use to help set up. He'd probably like filter it out of his deck relatively fast, because like once he gets some trauma, he doesn't need anything early game. But it also is dependent on him finding an enemy that he wants to hit him.
Yeah, so. Like when we talked to when we did like a deck building episode with Tim from I've Got a Plan, who played Calvin. He say that his normal strategy for Calvin is like find the first enemy that pops out of the encounter deck and just like hug it for a while and let it hit him a bunch.
Yeah, so basically.
This accelerates that a little bit, I guess, maybe, sure. Right?
Yeah. It also gives you automatic success isn't nothing, right? Like if you're playing expert, that's pretty reasonable. That's like pretty great, actually. You want to like touch the bag as little as possible. So this is like fine for that case.
The art in this reminds me of early in Dark Souls when you go up onto the roof of the whatever and you have to fight the 2 gargoyle monsters. I'm bad at video games, so that took me a very long time to beat, but it's fun to be reminded of that.
What's kind of great about this picture? Why does this guy have an elaborate like medieval axe? How's that?
Yeah. Also,
his weapon of choice in the 1920s.
Face a butt because it looks a little bit like a butt.
I think it's like a skull. I don't know.
He might have just like. I think it's a Nikon, and he just like stole. He might have just like stolen that from like the local museum, and then this is like the security.
I think,
but he's on.
Yeah, I think this is like an old spooky house with like suits of armor, and one of them was holding this, and he kind of like grabbed it, which is pretty cool.
And then climbed on the roof to fight the night gaunt.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
That's normal.
No, you're right. I don't know why I'm questioning it.
let's continue onwards to the next card.
Yeah, so the next card is Get Behind Me. It is a Guardian event, cost 0, level 0, has a willpower and combat icon. It's a spirit and a tactic. Fast, play during any free trigger window. Until the end of the phase, whenever an enemy would attack another investigator at your location, it attacks you instead, then engages you. Cancel 1 horror dealt by each attack made in this way. And the art features Daniela holding a pipe and a man in a suit cowering behind her.
Daniela, again, looking absolutely as jacked as hell.
I think this might be like one of my favorite arts in the set already. Like this is such good art. Daniela just looks like she's absolutely gonna smash whatever.
Like that pipe is gonna like break in half on something's head.
I'm very excited about this.
This is really similar to the previous card in that it's like a way to take damage kind of and also get some kind of incidental benefit out of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, fast things are usually pretty cool if they are useful at all, and it's I don't know. I mean, I guess this is like purely protective. Like the previous card, also you could use to like hit something, right?
Yeah.
So you hadn't found your weapon yet, or if you really needed to succeed on a really hard fight test, you could use that. You could use toe to toe. But this is like, unless you're Daniela, where it lets you ping something, all it does is kind of soak damage off of other people. So I tend to think that under most circumstances as a guardian, if you're playing well and you have a good deck, hopefully you're killing things before they can start running around and wailing on everybody. Even if you're Daniela, hopefully you're kind of trying to do that, but maybe for Daniela this is good.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about this card in terms of there are other cards similar to it, like Heroic Rescue, right? Or there's another card, like Let Me Handle This, for example, where that just pulls an enemy to you that you don't have to worry about. Or like Get Over Here is another example of these cards that are like used to get enemies off of other people to like get them where they need to be, which is on the Guardian, right? And this card, if you're comparing this card in kind of a general broad sense, using it with a guardian, any guardian, it's almost like always worse than Let Me Handle This one, because that's just like anywhere. If they draw it and they're like in Canada and you're in like Provincetown, give it to me. Like ship him FedEx like same day to Provincetown.
Speaking a fun combo, it's someone else's turn, you're on their location, you have this in hand, you activate Safeguard level 2, your group mate starts moving, you're following them with Safeguard, they run around the map, pick up a bunch of enemies, and every time they're going to get AO'd, instead the enemy AO's you and then jumps on you, and then you don't get AO'd anymore because you're moving with Safeguard, you're not spending actions.
Right.
So you can just like hoover up a bunch of dudes. It could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is you can play this during the enemy phase, right? So you could use that to like if someone's like derped their way into a bunch of rats in a witch house or something, and you don't have actions to like go in and pull them off of them. You can like run over to them and then pull them off of them during enemy phase. I guess you could also use it to soak like every attack from like a massive enemy if you want.
But if you're Daniela, you just need to have it. If you're Daniela, you just need to have the massive enemy hit you first, and then you could trigger your ability and evade it, right?
That's true. But what if you want to trigger your ability 4 times?
I thought it was once. Isn't it once per turn? Once per phase.
No, there's no restriction on it.
Oh, on Daniel.
Except you can't do it off of an attack of opportunity you provoked.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, maybe.
So
like you can do it off of something that somebody else provokes.
Yes.
Like by pulling them off with this, or like with heroic intervention.
Yeah,
like because it would attack another investigate your location. It attacks you instead. The AOO basically gets canceled. It doesn't actually get canceled, but it's like instead of AOOing the person who to spend an action, it's going to attack you, not an AOO.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple cards that specifically say like you can make an enemy attack somebody AOO you, and then you get to Daniel can pull it off or something. Like that restriction is very weird, but I guess it's just to stop her from running around the board and provoking like 3 AOOs and triggering her ability 3 times or something. I don't know. So
going back to kind of bottom line, this is I think even maybe more niche than the previous card. This is like maybe try it in Daniela in a multiplayer group, but I probably wouldn't ever play it in anybody else unless there was a very specific circumstance.
I feel like you could tech it in if you know there's a scenario where most enemies deal mostly horror, because it does cancel 1 horror. So if you have a bunch of like lower health enemies or weaker enemies that just deal 1 horror, you could pull them off. You could use it as a pseudo taunt on like Zoe or something to like pull a bunch of.
I was gonna say I think you could do some kind of crazy shenanigans with like injury meters with Zoe and somebody else, or maybe you like pass them back and forth with taunt in this card like 4 times, and Zoe gets like $15 or something.
Yeah. Is there a swarm that's like horror focused? I don't remember, because that'd be great.
Oh yeah, if there is, yeah, that would be cool.
All right. Well, why don't we move on to the next card?
Yeah, let's do it. We got a lot of these. So this is our first upgraded Guardian card. So we have a level 1 cost 3 Guardian event called Gang Up. It has a willpower icon and a combat icon. It is a spirit, because all these cards are spirits, and a synergy. And it says fight. For each different class among cards you control, you get +1 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. And was this one of the ones that you guys previewed a few weeks ago?
It is. Yeah. I know you were busy getting a burrito or something, so you couldn't make it. But yeah,
to Las Vegas. But yeah, this is the first like synergy card that we've looked at this episode, right? So it's like the more this is the one I was talking about earlier, where the more different classes among cards you control, and neutral does not count as a class, and control
Correct.
means on the board as an asset that you control.
Yep.
Yeah. So like if someone plays a solemn vow and gives it to you, gives you control of it, that counts. If you play a solemn vow under someone else's control, that does not count.
Mm-hmm. But it's important to note that this also includes your investigator card, right?
Yep. The investigator card is a card you control, so that counts.
Yeah, so Lolo's at an inherent disadvantage.
So the best case scenario is you're getting +5 combat and doing 6 damage with this attack.
Yeah.
That's
so
really high.
Yeah, we talked about this. Is in like Carolyn, I think was our main thought for this, or Lola
or
is
Zoe,
like
Zoe's damage 5, right?
Yeah, I mean Zoe, I think she has to sacrifice her off-class slots just to power this up, which I think is a harder sell. But you could do it in Zoe or anyone that has access to 5 classes, any of the damage 5, I guess.
Yeah.
But like even like Carolyn doesn't have good ways to do fighting, so like this could be like an emergency backup for Carolyn, and I think she's already running like Peter and Liquid Courage and probably a couple Mystic and Secret cards anyway, right? Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to do extra work to turn it on. She naturally has access to it.
I guess she can also maybe pay for it better than some of the other Guardians because it is expensive. Yeah. But you would need to want to have a card like this, right? Like you'd need to want to have a card that does a big chunk of damage once. Which if you're Carolyn, like maybe you're focused on getting clues, maybe you're in a 4-player group and there's another Guardian and other people in the group that are going to be handling enemies, and it's like not really worth the slot for you. But I mean, yeah, if you're going to play like a single kind of attack card, if you're playing Carolyn, this is probably a fun one to play.
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable to take this. Just there are so many scenarios where there's like always the big baddie, right? And like Carolyn is like one of the investigators anyway that I think of the most when I think of somebody who needs like to set up a lot, like somebody who needs a lot of assets down anyways. And this is just kind of rewarding that, especially if you're in like a 2-player or 3-player where there isn't a lot of like wiggle room. If you're just doing like pure seeker or pure tank, it might be different. But like if you're kind of going somewhere in the middle where Carolyn needs some of these kinds of cards to like fend off some things if the Guardian is dealing with things, then this is kind of a perfect card for that. And it's better than I've got a plan in some cases, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say is like even with Carolyn, you're very rarely going to do 6 damage. Like reasonably optimistic scenario, you're going to do 4, which is like the same as what I've Got a Plan usually does. So this is pretty comparable to I've Got a Plan, which is okay because honestly, like there's really not that many points in the game where you really need to do 6 damage with one hit, right? Like there's Apex, Strangle, Vian, and stuff, but most of the time, if you're actually a Guardian and your main job is to fight enemies, it's much more important to be able to kind of flexibly do the correct amount of damage like whenever you need it than to be able to have like one hard to set up card that does a huge number. There's some cases where doing like 5 or 6 damage would be really helpful.
I think I'm kind of understanding why they put Double or Nothing on the forbidden list so they can print stuff like this, because like it would be funny to have like Leo Anderson or something with Gang Up and just doing like 12 damage in one hit. That's like shotgun levels of legendary.
I guess with this, unlike shotgun, where like if you want to do damage, you also need to have a really huge like Double or Nothing also makes it harder to pass by 5 or whatever. Right. In this case, if you're going to hit for a ton of damage, you're kind of also getting a huge combat bonus. So maybe it's kind of like
Yeah. Another thing with these synergy cards, because we have Bob coming out, he's probably going to he could be giving green or red cards to other players, so it might make other players easier to set this up if they wanted to go that way. If you get Bob on your team, so like I don't know, that's something to think about. Also,
have this teddy bear.
This talk of Carolyn made me think not to roll backwards, but Carolyn might be a good candidate for that permanent card. Because she does have so many cards she wants to play. That is true. And a lot of them are items, right?
She likes allies, though, and Pathfinder and things.
The issue is they're not items.
I thought like she still had like a good chunk of them, but maybe not. I don't know. I haven't played Carolyn in a while. But let's go to the next card.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, the next card is Sweeping Kick. It is a level 1 Guardian event, costs 1 to play, has 1 combat symbol, 1 agility symbol on it. It's a spirit, a tactic, and a trick. Fight, add your agility to your skill value for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. If you succeed, automatically evade the attacked enemy. This is kind of like a sub-theme in some of these Guardian events / cards where you have a fight, but then you actually get to add your agility to it, which is not good in most Guardians cases. I was kind of thinking about like the amount of Guardians who actually have a reasonable agility. Obviously Mark, but not a lot of others, right?
I mean, like Tony and Skids, like a couple of rogues that have access to Guardian, low-level Guardians might pick this up.
Well, Tony has 2 agility.
He does? Oh. Well, Rita.
But Skids, yeah.
Rita could take this as a trick.
Yes! That boy in chat. It is a trick.
I think the current number of like good cards Rita can play is now up to like 16. So we're getting closer to having a full deck. Maybe we'll get there one day.
I mean, it automatically evades. What's Rita's ability again? Does she get something when she evades? No, it's when she moves, right?
No, it's when she evades an enemy, she can deal it a damage, or she can move.
Yeah.
So
okay.
This does it for her.
So
pretty good Rita card then, I guess.
It is, yeah.
But and like maybe Nathaniel, just because if he wants to play like
that is true.
I haven't tried to make a Nathaniel deck, but so like you definitely want a lot of fight events, but there is at some point you run out of slots.
Yeah, but I mean these are the kinds that he likes though. The kind that deal +1 damage are great because you just can't have enough of them in your deck, really.
Yeah.
I mean, this is solid. It's 3 damage for him. What's his agility? Is agility 2 or 3?
It's 2.
Yeah. So that part's not as good, but getting a free evade isn't terrible. Like if maybe he has a big enemy he wants to handle, he can't kill it off in one turn because it has a lot of health or whatever. So
yeah.
Perfectly reasonable.
But again, even if you're playing a Guardian that just has like 3 agility or whatever, this is if you're not like Nathaniel who really wants events or something like that, it's probably is not gonna quite make the cut.
I mean, I think it's made for Lily, right? Who has reasonable like agility as well, especially if she uses the discipline.
Yeah, if you're trying to build around like combat events with Lily, then it could be cool.
What does she have base? She has 4 base fight and 3 base agility.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but then she also has a discipline, which can alter those.
Right. So I mean, but even without the disciplines, this it's like a 7. It's testing out of 7, so that's pretty decent. It is 1 experience though, but it is cheap. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people could figure out a way to make room for this in their deck.
Yeah.
So
isn't can Gloria take this? What is the class that Gloria can't take as her subclass?
Gloria can definitely take this. Yeah,
that would be really funny. Old lady kicking people.
Yeah, she cannot take Survivor, but her agility is bad and does her fight.
It obviously wouldn't be good, but it would be really funny to sweep and kick somebody.
I mean, I'm playing her right now in Return to the Circle Undone. Yeah, her agility is a 1 and her combat's a 2. So
sweep and kick some rats. She'll be fine.
She needs some help. For this, no. What I use
just commit a pop and then inexplicably sweep and kick like so like some big monster.
That is very that could be fun. No, Sword Cane is what I use for if I need to hit something with her. But why don't we move on to the next card? So we got Defensive Stance. It is a level 1 Guardian skill, practiced and expert. While Defensive Stance is in your hand or committed to a skill test, it gains combat icons equal to your agility and agility icons equal to your combat. And it features a woman that I don't think is Lily, but is maybe Lily, being surrounded by...
I think it's Lily. She's got the red outfit. It's a different one than in the previous card, but...
Yeah, and I don't know. She's fighting in the rain. A bunch of ghouls that are all around her. That's pretty great. I like that.
Oh yeah, super cool.
So we should say this is the first we've seen in what is going to turn out to be a cycle. There's one of these for each class, I think, and they have a different combination of 2 stats, but they all work the same way. What they remind me of most is the cards from is it from Dream Eaters or from Circle and Done? The ones like
Circle and Done.
Curiosity and Steadfast. Okay, yeah, because they would give you a boost to 2 stats, and they would scale up depending on like how much money you had or how much damage you had on you. And there was one for each class. They work differently, but it's similar where it's like if depending on the right combination of depending on whether these are stats that you care about and whether your character is good at them, it might be an okay skill card, but the ceiling on how good it is still going to be like relatively low, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be someone that actually has like a decent number in both those stats to really benefit from this, right?
But you still boost it more, and you wouldn't rather have just the core set skills that draw you a card if you succeed, right?
Yeah. I mean, in like Lily, this is +3 or +4 to your agility or combat. So, I mean, that is a big boost for her. So any investigator that has like, I mean, I'm without her, just with her base stats. I mean, I guess if she has, if she has her disciplines or whatever, it's even a bigger boost.
And when this says it gains combat icons equal to your agility and agility equal to your combat, that means it is updated by passive stat boost that you have, right?
Yeah, it doesn't say base.
What about activation things? Like suppose you commit this and then you activate like Keen Eye or whatever to boost the thing that it triggers off of.
That would work. That would update because it's while it's in your hand, it gains these icons, and while it's committed to the skill test. So you would evaluate that, like you evaluate the skill card whenever you determine the success of the test. So that'd be after you boost stuff. So I think that would work.
It's kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
The wording on this card though does mean like it doesn't work on Amanda, because when it's under Amanda, it's not in your hand or committed to a skill test.
Oh no! Man.
So you can't.
Amanda doesn't say like as if it were in your hand or something.
I don't think so.
No, it's under her specifically.
Yeah, and it also like practice makes perfect will fail on this because it doesn't have any icons unless it's in one of those 2 places, which means you can't commit it to a skill test. So there's a couple other cards that like awkwardly doesn't work with. Those were the 2 main ones I was thinking of.
What about like the I mean not this one, but the green one will eventually see that green skill card that like you search the top of your deck until you find another green skill card and you commit that. Probably the same thing.
No, because it wouldn't be in your hand. The one that came in Winnie's, or at least a level of it came in Winnie's deck. I don't remember.
So you have to commit it from hands in order to get anything out of it. Or like Silas's Elder Sign, if you could play it somehow, like that wouldn't work. So that's a little restrictive, but it's probably not a huge deal. I don't know. I think if I was playing like a Guardian in Forgotten Age, where I was going to need to evade things, like if I was playing Mark, I would think about playing one of these instead of like a Courage. But you could also just always play a Courage or some other generally good skill card, which you could commit to like any test. So I don't know. It's not a terrible card. I just think you're gonna have to think hard about whether it's better than like a Courage or a Pop or something.
Yeah, I think on the right investigator, it's really good, and on the like kind of an okay investigator, like kind of a Mark situation where he's probably gonna succeed anyways, it's kind of like okay. I guess like the saving grace is that it's a practice card, so you can practice makes perfect it. But like, I'm a little sad that somebody like Silas couldn't use it because he's got an 8 for both stats. So
I've kind of like the more I play this game, like we're years in, and I feel like I'm still kind of figuring things out. The core set skill cards are incredibly good. Like we all played them when the game first came out, and then we kind of got tired of them and started playing other things instead. And I'm back to like putting those in every deck now because just cantripping off of them and just drawing a new card is so powerful.
Right.
It's really hard for me to take another skill card that just helps you pass something and doesn't give you a card if you succeed.
Yeah. There are cards like Steadfast that I would used to look at in some certain cases, but it's just like I'd rather draw a card almost every time.
And especially also one last thing before we move on. If you're a Guardian, you have access to Daring, which is a really good card that in a lot of ways works the same way as this because you can commit it to this is combat or agility, so you can commit Daring to either a fight or evade, which is like 95% of what you would do with those 2 stats, and Daring draws you a card. So
regardless of if it fails or not, right?
And doesn't cost XP.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a skill focused Guardian yet that would maybe be like want to have this in there?
Not really.
I mean, it's worth mentioning that Amanda can take this because it's practiced. Right. So if you were doing like combat Amanda with Melteroni, this could get in there, but no, because she can't put it underneath her. So
She
Yeah.
can't.
Yep.
You're right. You're
Yep.
right. Yeah, she can't.
I mean, she can, it just
Yeah,
doesn't do
anyway.
anything. So, yeah. All right,
well,
let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next cards.
We got a 2-for-1.
Yeah, we've got the butterfly swords. So I guess I'm going to read the first one and then just say what's different about the second one. So we have two versions of this, a level 2 version and a level 5 version. The level 2 version is a 3-cost asset, a guardian asset with a combat and an agility icon. It is an item and weapon in melee. And it says action fight. You get +1 combat for this attack. After this attack, you may exhaust butterfly swords to fight again, adding your agility to your skill value for that attack. That attack deals +1 damage, and it takes up 2 hand slots. And the level 5 version gains a wild icon. When you fight, you get +2 combat instead of +1. And so after that attack, you may fight again, adding your agility to your skill value, so you don't have to exhaust it to get the second attack. And then if both attacks are successful, you may exhaust it to have the second attack deal +1 damage. So either way, you basically get a second attack. The difference is that with the level 5 version, you don't have to exhaust it for the +1 damage until you find whether the second attack is successful. Is that right?
Yes.
That
Boy, these
is-
are really good if Bob can find a way to give these to combat Amanda with a like level 2 vicious blow under her.
Oh yeah, that would be.
That's like so much damage in like 3 actions.
That would have to be teamwork though, because Bob can't play these. But
Yeah.
Teamworking those over to Amanda would be kind of ridiculous. Other than that, though, I don't know. I feel like I think Dane said he was excited about these. I'm not sure I totally see it, to be honest.
Not really.
I know.
So
Maybe it's another.
Not really.
Some other.
I like
So
it. I like it
it-
thematically.
I mean, they take
really
up both your hand slots, but every time you do a fight,
and like you could get a flamethrower instead of the second one, right? Like this has the downsides of, well, I guess it doesn't run out of ammo, but this is like,
That is true.
it just it feels like there's a lot of moving parts here. The maximum from this is you spend an action and you do 3 damage. And that's
Right.
if you pass 2 tests and you exhaust it. And then after that, your next attack that you do the same turn, it's already exhausted. So actually,
well, the level 5 version, you only exhaust it if you want the +1 damage. So level 2 version, you exhaust it to do the second attack.
okay, so with the level 5 version, you can keep doing 2 attacks with it as much as you want. Right. And it's just that you can only get that extra bonus damage, because once it's exhausted, you can continue to get the second attack on subsequent activations, right?
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. It's just you can't get that +1 damage.
Yeah,
so it's like kind of always does 2 damage every time you hit.
Assuming you can pass 2 combat, which usually you can.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's sort of like what you said with trying to teamwork it to Amanda. If you're trying to use it with any kind of card where you like want to take a lot of tests, because it's like every time you do a test or every time you pass a test you get something, I mean, then it would become really good.
It's just so hard because like would I put 10 experience worth of cards in my deck just to teamwork it to somebody else, like if that's not what my deck is like doing? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a cool card, I think. I don't know,
because the bottom line is like, okay, the level 5 version, in theory, it's like a thing that doesn't cost ammo, where every time you attack with it, the first one you get +2 combat. The second one, if your agility is decent, then you probably get a decent bonus. So it's like, okay, great. I can, I'm basically going to do 2 damage whenever I activate it. But if you do need to commit something to pass because you're fighting a boss or something, that commit only goes to one of the 2 attacks, right? And if you just had a normal weapon like a holy spear or something, then you could kind of commit 1 card or do one activation of something, and it would like benefit all of your damage that you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, the second attack you get to add your agility. So if you're using this on like Lily, then that's like +3 baseline, maybe more. So you don't really need to commit to the second attack.
right?
So I don't know if that's as much as you like. This is clearly a weapon I think Lily's supposed to use, because she can't use firearms, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But on the other hand, if Lily's going to use that the discipline that lets her get like 3 different fight actions, then I feel like that would push her to have 2 different one-handed weapons instead of one 2-handed weapon.
Or Bandolier level 2 and 2 butterfly swords.
Listen, I thought one of the cards let her get extra hand slots somehow. The Dragon Pole, maybe, or maybe there's extra arcane slots.
Dragon Pole gives her an extra arcane slot. And we'll cover that
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just tough. Like even like when I think about retaliate enemies, I just don't like these even more. You know, because like if you just fail one of those, you're just gonna get retaliated, and then it's like here comes the second one that I might fail.
I mean, this does something interesting and special enough that I feel like you could probably come up with some very interesting interactions with it. But baseline, it doesn't quite pass the like Holy Spear. When we took a look at that, it was like, okay, this is a lot of XP, but like this is actually pretty powerful. Like I would be pretty happy having this as my main weapon.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using bless tokens and stuff. With this, it's kind of like you'd really have to set up your deck in a particular way and kind of make sure that you were getting value out of it for it to be better than just having like 45s and enchanted blades or whatever in your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lily, maybe she does do Bandolier and gets these butterfly swords and gets the Dragon Pole or whatever, and then she has a couple events so she could do her ability that hits and evade stuff or whatever. But yeah, it's a harder sell. These are technically knives, so that means you can put them in a Zoe deck. I don't know if I don't think they might not be better than other available knives though. So it's a mixed bag there. But I don't know. It's interesting design at least. And the art is cool. The framing on the art is very cool with the swords.
I keep wanting to be like, we'll see where these go later in the set. And then I'm realizing this is the entire set.
Yeah, we got the whole set, Dane.
This is like the maximum potential.
The puzzles to try to figure out how Lily's going to use these, because that's clearly they might have to be intended to be used on. So, all right, why don't we move on to the next card?
All right, next card is Dodge. Welcome back. This is a level 2 version of Dodge that costs 0 to play. It has a will icon and 2 agility icons on it, and it's still a tactic. Fast play when an enemy attacks an adversary at your location. Cancel that attack. Then, and this is the new part, test agility 1. If you succeed, deal 1 damage to that enemy. So this is like going along with pretty much all of the other Guardian cards that aren't like very different in this set that kind of are like meant for Lily because she kind of has a respectable agility stat, but literally no other Guardian basically. Like Mark can pull it off, but like why?
Well,
just for 1 damage.
I was almost thinking more for Daniela. Does Daniela have decent agility? Her intellect is so low, she better have okay agility.
She has okay. I think she has okay agility, but she can't take this.
2 or 3 maybe.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Because it's all 2.
No, she can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think like the best case scenario is like Nathaniel Cho, who has like 2 agility, but could also deal 2 damage with it. I don't know.
I mean, obviously Lily can take it, right? And she does have good agility,
For
so.
Sure. But like, when is one?
Does Lily really want this though?
When is 1 damage relevant? Like on a.
I mean, one damage is relevant a lot, right? Because it's often
like not on an entire event card that you're paying 2 experience for. Like you could get a beat cop who can do this 3 times.
So here's the thing: if you weren't going to play Dodge anyway, I don't think this is going to convince you to play this card. Yeah. But I usually, if I'm playing like a pure enemy manager in like a 4-player group or 3-player group, I will usually play like 1 copy of Dodge, or maybe even 2, but usually 1. And you know what? Paying 0 instead of 1 is pretty great. So I would not prioritize upgrading this over like Beat Cop and even like Stand Together and stuff. But eventually I would, if I get usually run out of stuff to spend XP on, I find in like a Mark deck, I would totally eventually upgrade this just so it's free and maybe you get an extra damage out of it.
What does Diana have for agility? Is she like a 3 or something?
3. Yeah, she's 1 3 3 3.
I mean, she usually throws in dodges because it's a cancel, so maybe she'd grab this later game.
True. Yeah.
I don't know. It's 2 XP for 1 less cost and potentially 1 damage if you do a test. So.
Yeah, and it is. I don't know. I mean, it is nice to just be able to. It's kind of action compression in the sense that like, if you run up and just barely manage to enter the space that a cultist is on, then I mean Daniela doesn't need it because Daniela can just do this automatically. But like enemy phase, you can basically dodge and maybe kill them before you get to Mythos phase, you know?
Yeah, that's
Or
true.
like whippoorwills. Maybe you have like a police whistle, and maybe you like manage to get a whippoorwill on you with the police whistle, and then it's going to hit you, and then you're going to use this to kill it. Like you shouldn't play it just for that reason, but it's kind of like a toolboxy card that, you know, again, if you're going to play dodge anyway, because dodge is sort of an okay card if you're like an enemy manager, you might be able to occasionally do some cool things with this.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
let's take a look at the next card. Combat training.
Hey, Ben, real quick, how does that work with swarm enemies? Does that do 1 damage to every swarm enemy if they were to attack you?
No, because the swarm enemies attack individually.
Okay.
Yeah, you only dodge one swarm.
It's the evade that like applies to the whole swarm, but like fighting them is individually. So
Fair.
yeah, so combat training. So this is a level 3 version of combat training. Again, we see a upgraded version of all these composures in this set. So this is the Guardian one. It's level 3, cost 0 asset with 2 combat and 2 agility icons. It's a talent and composure, fast, limit 1 composure in play. You get +1 combat and +1 agility, but non-direct damage and horror must be assigned to combat training before it can be assigned to your investigator card. Free trigger, spend 1 resource, you get +1 combat or +1 agility for the skill test. So I guess comparing it to the original composure, it has more icons on it, costs less, and it also has health on it now. I missed. It has 3 health and 1 sanity versus the original one had no health and 1 sanity. So this can actually soak some damage, but you are forced to put damage on it if you can't put it, if you have nowhere else to put it other than your investigator card.
Yeah, the previous one, if you had other assets that could soak horror, then you maybe felt like you could keep it alive a lot longer.
Yeah.
This one is maybe a little, maybe it's like just another way for it to die. But I mean, we're beating around the bush here. I mean, the previous one was basically just a not super efficient talent. It was like a worse version of like the Kenai higher education type cards.
Yeah. The boon is that it's fast, right?
Yeah, this one is the passive bonuses, I feel like, and the fact that it's free are huge, right? Because it's like
I did not know that this gave passive bonuses before.
Yeah,
That's
like
ridiculous.
the previous one I would just never ever play ever.
Right.
And this one, because there's just better options. This one, if you have cards in your deck that are going to be really good at soaking damage and horror, you don't necessarily have to keep this out for the whole game. It's okay if it eventually dies, but you definitely want to get some use out of it. And you want to be able to use these stats. Like you want to be maybe a like non-mark guardian with maybe like 4 combat who really needs all the combat boosts you can get, or you want to be like playing Forgotten Age and you want to boost both your combat and your agility or something like that. This could be pretty good.
Yeah, and like it is
if you
particularly
protect it from getting killed.
Right, yeah. If you're somebody like Tommy who can like play Jess and Peter, or if you're playing like Brother Xavier or something, like people who want to take damage for you, and like you could play this with the star, right? The new tarot card that gives it +1 health and sanity.
Sure. Well, and I guess Tommy at least gets paid when this dies, right? Like he might be sad that he might be sad that it goes away, but at least it gets shuffled back in so he can draw it and fast play it again, and he gets money for it. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Draw it in, Tommy.
Yeah, I guess this synchronizes well with some of the other cards we've talked about already that are all like if your combat and agility are higher, you get a benefit on the other one, right? So it goes well at least with all these cards we've seen so far, and maybe Lily wants to play it. I don't know if Lily actually runs too much soak though.
Yeah, she could play a Flesh Ward and stuff, right? Like
she has access to all the high level Guardian allies. I just don't know if she leans into those.
But even more important though, Lily, she can get spiritual resolve, right? And she has things like the Dragon Pole or whatever that make her want to fill up her arcane slots.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If she is going to play spiritual resolve, then this is probably pretty solid.
Yeah. I love the flavor of these composures, even when they were in their level 1 form, even though like they were kind of like overshadowed by the other talents that were in the game. Like the flavor of the composures, like you losing your composure when you take damage or horror, that
I gotta say, if I was the guy
so cool.
in this art, I think I would have lost my composure.
Yeah, no, it's just such a
right
neat,
around the
like,
time this
concept.
photo was taken. Because this guy is shooting a pretty small gun at like one of the 3 spiky giant monster mouths that are about to eat him. That's not going to do it, buddy. Like this is you need a bigger gun or more guns or just to be anywhere else. I don't think
But if
this
you,
guy's in trouble.
but if you're gonna do it, you have to have composure, right?
Yeah.
In the 0.1% chance that it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen because you kept calm, and that's why I like these cards.
This guy's
They're
just
cool.
doing the like fear is the mind killer speech, and then he's like halfway through it, he is chopped up into 1,000 pieces. And so we should mention this is another cycle. It's not all the ones are identical. Like they don't all boost 2 stats exactly like this, but there are composures for each class that I think we'll talk about as we progress.
I like how they did them though. The way that they distributed the health and horror matters too. Like, because you don't lose your composure as easily if you take damage if you've had combat training, right? There's like kind of like that undercurrent of flavor. So I thought that was neat.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's move on, and we have an upgraded version of On the Hunt.
This is the card I'm most hyped about.
Yeah, so this one uh so this one is a level 3 cost 0 event with willpower, intellect, and combat icons. It's a tactic. It says fast, play when you would draw an encounter card during the Mythos phase. Instead, search the encounter deck for an enemy, spawn it engaged with you instead of its normal spawn location. Attach On the Hunt to it and shuffle the encounter deck. And then reaction when you defeat attached enemy, gain 3 resources. So the difference from the original one is it costs 0 instead of 1. It's level 3 instead of level 0. It gained it gained a willpower icon, and it has the previous one didn't have the like attach it and then gain 3 resources when you defeat it. That's new to this one, but those are the only differences. It does the same.
There's one more that's very important. Search the entire encounter deck rather than just the top 9. Every single enemy that you could get, any one of them. In spoilers for Dream Eaters.
Well, so Dane, you're excited for this. Are you excited for it purely as like tech for specific scenarios where you have to find something in the encounter deck, like where the gods dwell, or do you also just like it as like an economy card?
So yeah, I both of those things. I think that specifically, I really like it for Roland because he wants to find enemies to kill to get clues and things. Economy is great. Searching the encounter deck for any enemy is great. There are a lot of like scenarios like that will have those random victory 1 enemies just shuffled into the deck, and once you get up and going, you can just straight up, instead, I'm not going to take an encounter card, I'm just going to pull one of those guys out because I'm ready for it, right? Like there are some, just the fact that this would replace drawing an encounter card, even in like solo, that's really good for people like Roland, right? Where like they don't have great will, so if they might get like caught up with Frozen in Fear for a couple turns. The alternative, just play this. Don't worry about that Mythos phase because you can just like grab a rat or something or anything. You can just basically not care about an encounter phase. So those are the pros of this. But I was really sad to see it at level 3 because that's a lot of experience to put in for a card that is like kind of like just tech for some investigators that could make use of this.
It rules it out like for Yorick. It rules
That's
it out
the
for,
big one. I wanted this for Yorick so bad because then you can just search the entire encounter deck for something and then bury it deep immediately. That's the dream.
I mean, I think you've kind of talked me into this a little bit. I was not interested in this at all when we first looked at it, and I think like a solo Roland build, yeah, I'd probably play one of these, just because you can maybe fish out if you really need money. Maybe you can fish out a weak enemy, kill it, get a clue and some money. Maybe you're playing Gret as like your main clue engine or something. So you're basically never investigating. You're like only getting clues from Gret and Roland's ability. So getting an enemy out, you get 2 clues.
Yeah, and that's very real. You've seen that happen with Harrison was playing Roland in Innsmouth,
and
right?
and it definitely like where the gods dwell is famously like an incredibly hard scenario in solo or even duo. So this would make it easier. I think there's other things too where, like you said, you're trying to like fish out a particular enemy or something.
Yeah.
So it is kind of both a tech card for those scenarios and a way to turn on abilities like Roland, and unfortunately not Yorick because he can't take it. But yeah, that's kind of. But it's definitely not like a general. You shouldn't just like throw this into a random like Zoe deck. I don't think. But
It'd be thematic, but yeah. I think it's a cool economy card. I really like the way that it's designed. Again, I'm just really sad that it's level 3, just because that's a lot of experience to sink into something that's not like your guns or your overpower level 2s or whatever. Like, but it's fine if like you're not going to stand together and you need some economy, right?
Yeah, it is.
Even in that
I feel
sense.
like they could just make this to level 2 instead of level 3, and it wouldn't be too strong. It would be like pretty appropriate, but yeah, that's all right, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the Guardian card that I was most excited about seeing, because I think at first I also missed the fact that it's the entire counter deck. I thought it was just the top 9 again, and I was like, okay. But entire counter deck ain't bad.
Yeah. Should we there's only one more Guardian card left, so let's move on to that.
Let's do it. Last Guardian card of the set here. Fang of Turthura. Turthurha?
How did Ben avoid having to read this one?
I know. Tirthurha.
Tragically, I had to put the butterfly swords together, right? It would have made no sense to split those up. So that made this the 11th card.
Clever bastard.
Yeah.
So this is a level 4 Guardian event. Costs 3 to play, has 2 combat icons and 2 agility icons on it. It's a spell, which I know is relevant for some other investigators. Fight. Choose an enemy at any revealed location as the target for this attack. Before resolving this attack, you may move to that enemy's location. Add your agility to your combat for this attack. This attack deals plus 3 damage. Flavor. The fangs of Tyndalos always reach any prey. Really cool card, I think.
Yeah, I mean, lets you move. It can let you move anywhere on the map effectively, right?
Any revealed location. Yeah, jeez.
Is it effectively like it's like a teleport, right? Like you wouldn't have to move through locations between it, right?
Well, the Hounds of Tyndalos, right? You know, they like zoop into walls and pop out other places, right? They pop out in other dimensions.
Zoop in a boob.
They transform to triangles or whatever, or unexplainable triangles that have like 190 degrees.
They go through the Midas Canal and they get to the. See, Dane picked up on that one. I mean, I think this is like straight up better. This is just a pure upgrade over Gang Up, I think, right? Because
that's fair.
You're doing 4 damage instead of potentially like 6, but you're usually not doing 6 damage with Gang Up. It costs the same, and this one lets you teleport to hit something. Like if you're a Guardian, way more important than being able to do a big chunk of damage is being able to like react to threats and like clear threats off of the other people in your group that are trying to get clues. So this is like you're the other dumb people in your group split up to opposite ends of the map because they're not worried about stuff, and you had to go help one of them, and then the other one drew like a big Shoggoth or something. You can like immediately go teleport to the other side and deal with it. That's pretty strong.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like it's like kind of like Assassin Creed-y, you know, warping out of the ceiling to murder something. It's really neat. Adding your agility is like again generally kind of like a mediocre thing for most Guardians. Lily obviously likes it, but I think it's also kind of a different card than Gang Up. I get what you mean by that. It's better than it in most situations.
I mean, it's also 4 XP instead of like 1.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's an investment. But I think that other investigators that might be able to play it are like Marie and Parallel Agnes. I don't remember what the restriction on all spells are, but not that it's great in them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I like it a lot.
I think it's a cool card. It has a lot of flavor, and I think it can be very powerful. It might be certain campaign. Are there campaigns where like big enemies will spawn like the opposite side of the map, and you have to like run over to them or whatever? Like there's one Luke enemy that's spawns far away from you. Any of the ones with cultists that have big cultists.
Echoes of the Past.
Yeah.
There's Echoes of the Past is weirdly, especially Return to Echoes of the Past is weirdly like a scenario that you almost need tech for. And and there are a lot of cards that are basically tech for that scenario, and this is kind of one of them. Although wait, are those locations aren't revealed actually, so I think it might not do anything for those.
They are not. Oh yeah, Marie can attack it to Diana.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just the teleport effect is pretty powerful if you need to like do a lot of backtracking. Dan's right. It gives you some leeway if like your clue leaders want to split up and you are supposed to protect both of them or whatever. You can teleport around.
That's a lot
which
of
always
damage.
happens. Like you're playing something like Black Star's Rise, and the title tears keep popping out, or not title tears, but after you've advanced a couple times, it puts a bunch of bad enemies in the deck, and then everyone's spread out, and there's like a lot of clues everywhere.
Yeah,
I think Innsmouth, especially. Innsmouth has a lot of really big maps.
Mm.
Something like Into Deep.
yeah,
This is pretty good.
yeah. Like Mark could cycle one of these through his deck pretty easily, right? Nathaniel
Yeah.
Cho, although it's not a spirit, like
It
deals +4 damage with it.
it's still, because it's kind of expensive, and because it's a lot of XP. I think it's still sort of low on the priority list for upgrades. But
Yeah, sure.
yeah, maybe higher for Nathaniel. But I think it's a strong card.
Yeah, I agree. I like it.
Yeah.
Let's should we move on to the Mystic
Cool.
cards now?
Yeah, it's a cool way to finish off the Guardians. So yeah, Mystic cards. So the first one we have is Down the Rabbit Hole. It is a null cost asset because it's the permanent. It's a talent, limit 1 per deck, purchase at deck creation. After each scenario of campaign, reduce the experience cost of the first 2 cards you upgrade before the next scenario by 1. Increase the experience cost for you to purchase new cards by 1. So
I'm going to predict that Dane has a very strong either positive or negative reaction to this card, because he loves getting XP and he loves Arcane Research, but he hates not getting XP.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm going to guess that the negative side is going to win. Am I right about that, Dane?
It's. I think so. I don't think there are enough like cards that you can upgrade that I would feel like that bonus outweighs the
It just okay. So
negative.
imagine if Arcane Research did not exist. Then I think you could maybe like break even with this card, because you do, as a mystic, usually spend a lot of XP to upgrade your spells. You got to upgrade
This
your
is
Rites of
true.
Seeking or your Shrivelings or your wards. So you might like kind of break even with this, right? But if why wouldn't you just take Arcane Research? And that basically already gives you plenty of advantage to upgrade your upgradable cards.
Mhm.
So you don't, adding this additionally doesn't really do a whole lot.
I
Like,
don't
just get
know.
2 Arcane Researches, you know?
I mean, I feel like if you're gonna go in on 2 arcane researches, you could get. There's so many times like that I've been at playing mystics where I'm like, if only I had like 2 more experience to like upgrade. You basically like fully upgrade 2 of your like big name spells like clairvoyance or like shriveling or whatever, and then you have kind of enough to like fill out the periphery of like your ward level 2s and like maybe your alternative to that, like um, your Azure Flames and stuff like that. But you like, there's never a case where, at least that I feel like anyway, where I've had like all of my level 5 spells online or level 3 spells online before like scenario like 7 or something, or 6. And like this kind of allows that, as long as you like make your deck with the intent that you know where you're going to be like needing to just bite the bullet and take that increased experience cost, because like the amount that it's saving you is probably like, if you're going for that kind of like reg spell stuff, probably okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Dane on there. There, you can go hard into getting your upgrades, and my main case I was thinking is for like Dream Eaters or Core Set, where it's like a 3 or 4 scenario campaign, and you don't get that much experience, and maybe you just want to be able to get into your level 5 spells by the 3rd, 4th scenario, and just get those, and that's your whole deck plan for upgrades.
Yeah, if you're really prioritizing like level 5 shriveling extremely highly, or the other level 4 or 5 spells, then yeah, I guess I could see it. I think what's tricky to me though is, I feel like when you're evaluating this, it's easy to fall into a trap where mentally you're thinking of this as being basically 2 XP each scenario. And the problem is that that's only if you're upgrading 2 cards, which sometimes you are in Dream Eaters, because you get a lot of XP per scenario relative to the other campaigns. So it's more likely that you can do that. But in a typical, a lot of times you might get, 6 XP after a scenario, right? So you might not be able to, you might not, like, you can't fully upgrade deny existences. So like you could upgrade 1 but not 2 or something like that, right? So I think that might be kind of tough. And I think if you don't get both upgrades from this every time, then you're almost definitely just breaking even. right? Because you probably do want to buy new cards. You want to get like grotesque statues, the tarot card, the will tarot card, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a
I
long
mean,
campaign you probably break even regardless. I think the focus is like you really want to get those upgrades fast and you can get them cheaper. I think that's the hope.
I think the
at
other
least.
thing, yeah, I think the other thing about this card though is that it's not just spells. Like there are times where I have like a level 1 fearless or level 0 fearless in my deck or something like that, and I like wish I could upgrade it to like level 2, but it's like I never want to commit that experience to that. And like this is like a case where you could do that, or like
Or
even
guts.
like your guts level 0 to guts level 2, you can do that. Like this helps that. And like I'm just trying to think of like other situations where you take this if it's somebody's like off class, like Gloria for not Gloria, Sister Mary, or somebody who has like Mystic as a subclass, like Patrice. Are there enough upgrade cards like outside of purple where that would be reasonable to take?
I think a lot of the multi-class cards that we'll talk about
Oh, sure.
at some point this year have upgrades, and a lot of them. I think there's a lot of ones that dip into Mystic, but I think those are some ones that are just outside of Mystic. So, I mean, that could be more options. It depends if you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really just does depend on what you should plan out pretty much how you're going to spend your XP
Exactly.
before you for the whole campaign before you decide to take this. But I mean, like, okay, I just opened up like a fairly standard Agnes deck that I have on ArkhamDB, and it's a lot of upgraded cards. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only kind of cards that don't have like a lower level version you can start with are well, I mean, I guess grotesque statue, like there's not a level 0 version, right? There's like a level 2
There's a
version.
level 2
Mhm.
version, so you could do
Um,
that and then upgrade into the
and
level
and
5.
like clarity of mind, I would usually skip the lower level version and go straight to the higher one. Diana Esperance, if you're going to play her. Peter, I also would usually skip the level 0. Also charismas, keep in mind things like charisma and relic hunter if you're going to get
Mhm.
those. That's kind of a big deal. But everything
Sure.
else, like the arcane slot assets, lucky, ward of protection, if you're pretty sure that you're mostly doing upgrades, and if you really want to kind of charge ahead and upgrade some of those like spells to level 4 or 5 immediately, yeah, it could be good. Just again, just make sure that you plan out what you're going to upgrade into, what you're going to spend your XP on, and decide whether this is worth it.
For sure. There's just like a lot of like just reg ass good mystic stuff that need to be upgraded. Like and I think the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like thinking about like planning out a mystic who can do this, the easier it becomes to see this like be just being in my deck, along with
Yeah.
2 arcane researches. And like just having a ridiculous amount of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thought exercise for sure, and yeah, I think you could come up with decks that utilize this. We didn't mention the art. This is so cool art, right?
I like
Real
this art
dope.
quite a bit.
It is
Ben,
pretty sweet.
Any
are
art
you
that shows a book being destroyed is great, right?
well,
That's a positive.
I mean, I think this is like, I don't know if this is a book being destroyed. This is definitely a person
Uh,
like reading a book and it kind of like blowing your mind or something like that.
oh
So I
wait,
feel like
it could be going the other direction. What if the book's being assembled as she reads it? Oh
do
no.
we know who this is in the art? Like the face is very detailed, but I don't
Uh,
know if I can tell like which of is this supposed to be one of the investigators that we know?
Maybe Agnes?
I don't think
Maybe? Because she's
so.
Yeah.
kind of got that scraggly brown hair.
I
It's
think
really
this
hard
is
to tell just
just.
from the face. Like usually you need to see their kind of outfit, and you can't see that in this photo.
Yeah, I assume this
Yeah.
is just a random person. I don't think we've seen them in other art, but I don't have all the art memorized. So
It's definitely really, really good art, I would say.
yeah,
It
oh
is,
yeah.
yeah. I love it.
Would love to have a playmat of this. Let's move on though, and let's talk about a very unusual Mystic card, the Dragon Pole, which
Hey.
is a level 0 3-cost asset with a combat icon. It is an item, a weapon, and a melee, and it says you have 1 additional arcane slot. Action fight, you get +1 combat for this attack for each of your arcane slots that is filled. If at least 2 of your arcane slots are filled, this attack deals +1 damage, and it takes up 2 hand slots.
So I mean, this is a basically mostly basically a Lily card.
Lily card.
The
I mean, I
idea
guess
is
you could play it in Diana, maybe, right?
mm,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
that's true
Totally.
too. But yeah, I mean, once you get it online though, that's it's an infinite use 2 damage card, right?
Yeah.
And the setup is you have to play some arcane. You have to play stuff that fills your arcane slots, of which there's lots of options for mystics. There's also options for guardians that Lily can upgrade into. I think Dan mentioned spiritual resolve earlier.
It's really down to how many arcane slot things you actually want to play as Lily, because it seems like, I mean, so you need weapons, you want some kind of standard things like dodge, you want some skill cards that boost your stats or draw cards or whatever, and then in addition to all of that, apparently you want a lot of events with her, right? We think, right? So it's sort of like, can you fit, like, I think spiritual resolve might be okay, but it's sort of like based on the number of arcane slot items that you want to have in your deck, are you going to be able to turn this on reasonably reliably? Because if you can't, if you're not getting that extra damage, this is sort of bad, I would say.
I think, like you said, spiritual resolve is like kind of the thing that takes two arcanes, right?
No, I think that's only one, isn't it?
It's one, and you can play additional ones that take the same slot or something, right? Or no, you use it to like recharge it.
You use it to heal.
Yeah.
The first copy of spiritual resolve. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. It has dragon in the name. Dragons are always cool. Is this the first time dragon has made an appearance in Arkham? I feel like it is.
Probably, yeah.
So, you know,
Ben, you're a big dragon guy. How do you feel about the long Chinese dragons as opposed to your more kind of classical European dragons?
I like long Chinese dragons, maybe a little bit better. I feel like I
think I agree. They're both cool, but I feel like we've seen the Western ones so much. I always like to see the cool Chinese dragons.
I guess maybe it's just because we see the Western ones more often, but I don't know. Yeah. They enhance the regular dragons by like changing their horns or changing their wings a little bit. The Chinese dragons are like long and snake-like, and it seems like they make them more different from one another. At least when I see them in D&D, I did other media.
The other arcane slot items I can think of that are not the kind of typical like use your willpower to whatever, or like there's some seeker ones that I'll ignore because those are probably not playable in the same kind of decks. But there's spiritual resolve I think is pretty solid. There's Shield of Faith and Rite of Sanctification. There's Flesh Ward. I mean, like any of those you can make an argument for, but it's really hard for me to believe that a Lily deck is going to have more than like 5 or 6 of those in their deck, maybe.
Yeah.
I see chat is pitching Jenny really hard on this.
I was thinking that's so funny because she has
that is kind of funny actually with haste.
And
ooh, that's
double. Right?
Blur, double time, haste, obfuscation is all suggestions we got in chat.
That's
rogues,
really funny.
Rogues do have a decent number of good arcane slots.
Yeah, and is it suggestion? What's the other green one that like gives you evade stuff? Oh man, yeah, that actually does sound like a fun bad deck. Yeah, okay. All right. I think Lily. Maybe we're not sure. Maybe have to wait for the next campaign box and see some more arcane slot items that are good for her. But yeah, Jenny, I mean, sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, does the armor of whatever take up arcane slots?
Not the armor of Ardeen's. The one that's like a trench coat. It's like a magic armor.
Enchanted armor.
Yeah. Where you have to test will every time you take damage.
Yeah. So you can soak a bunch of damage, take some arcane slot. I don't know. I think like putting Dragon Pull in your deck makes you think like, okay, what I now want to put arcane slots in my deck, and maybe outside of Mystic, you don't think about that as much. So it could be a cool card to build around. And other things you could do with it, we didn't talk about this much, but Guardians have a bunch of upgrades, right? Some of them are firearm specific, but
that's right. You can like tack on a whole bunch of like the Guardian upgrades to it.
Yeah, like Lily could.
Yeah, anytime you see a weapon that doesn't have like a depleted ammo situation where you could just use it forever, that becomes kind of a prime candidate for throwing a bunch of upgrades on it.
Yeah, enchant weapon too.
Lord Batboy mentioned, enchant weapon makes this also take an arcade slot just by attaching it. Yeah, cool. I like this card. Has lots of cool potential combos. So I think cool.
I'm down.
If one of us plays Lily in whenever we get to an Edge of the Earth playthrough, I bet we'll see this in there with some fun stuff.
And if you're doing like solo Lily, maybe you're playing like a Sixth Sense or something.
Sure,
Like,
yeah, I could see that.
Miss of Ryla. I mean, I don't know. I want to see how the Jenny deck shakes out with this, because that's
well, if
that's
you're doing solo, I know Jenny's very popular in solo, so maybe this is a way to go with that.
Dragon Pull Jenny solo.
Yeah.
I'm glad she gets played somewhere, because she is not very popular in our 4-player games. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next card.
Next card is Meditative Trance. It is I think the first of the events that we've seen for the Mystics. Costs 2 to play, level 0, has a will icon and an intellect icon. It is an insight and a spirit. For each of your arcane slots that is filled, you either heal 1 damage or 1 horror. So to go with that Dragon Pull theme, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have you have to kind of like this. If you have just baseline with nothing boosting your number of arcane slots, this is like heal 2 for 2 money.
That's true.
Which is like,
we should have a system for these card reviews where I get like 1 ward per episode, where I get to just ward a card and we immediately move on to the next one, because it's just definitely a bad card.
Yeah,
yeah. This is like best case scenario. Once you filled up your arcane slots, this is like an emergency aid in a class that doesn't really need healing as much.
Yeah,
like it costs 2. Like, just don't play this.
It's a card you play late in the game, and I think if you have extra arcane slots, maybe it's like a big heal. But yeah, it's not great. I agree with Dan.
I mean, you could play it in like Agnes instead of like but Fearless is like probably better than this, right? Or you could play it instead of like a Clarity of Clarity, or Clarity of Mind. I always want to call it Omen of Clarity for some, because my brain is damaged from playing World of Warcraft for too long. But it's but like yeah, I don't know. And it's even, we were just talking about like the Lily build where Lily plays Dragon Pull and wants to have slots, but then you're probably playing Spiritual Resolve. You don't need to heal. You're going to just soak stuff.
She also has Deny, and she has her Discipline that heals her.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a tough call, but like maybe for Safina, who likes to play a lot of events and might not want to take like Clarity of Mind or something like that, but then she just has Liquid Courage. Damn.
It's too bad it's not a spell, because if it was a spell, you could maybe try to fit it in like Spell Tribal Agnes and heal so she could use her ability more.
Yeah,
but
true.
it just doesn't.
Parallel Agnes likes this,
but it's not a spell again. It's yeah, I don't know. It's $2 for something that you have to like activate before it does anything is just that's really challenging.
And you can't use it on other people either. It's just a self heal, right?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Like even emergency aid, you can heal other people. You can heal allies.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh well.
All right. Well, let's move on then. So the next card is Close the Circle. It is a level 1, cost 2 asset. Has a combat and an agility icon. It is a ritual and synergy. Uses 1 charge for each class among the cards you control, including this one. So when you play it, it gets 1 charge per class you have. And then free trigger. Spend 1 charge and exhaust Close the Circle. Take a basic action. For each skill test performed during that action, you may use your willpower instead of the skill indicated for the action, and it takes up an arcane slot. So basic action means you can't do, an arrow trigger somewhere else.
Nested actions aren't a thing anymore, right?
They are not. So yeah, you'd only be doing 1 action.
So why is it worded that way? For each...
I mean, you might have, for example, if you use like the butterfly swords, that makes you do 2 tests, right?
Gotcha.
Except you can't use these butterfly swords. But
there's things like cryptographic cipher. You could like activate that in the middle of a test to do an investigate or something.
Yeah.
It
had to be something that like makes you do a test like while you're doing the basic action.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, this is a fast trigger to do an extra action, right? And I guess it depends on your deck on how many cards you can get down with it. I think an average play is a basic action. Someone's asking in chat. I think anything is a basic action that's not an arrow activate, right? but I don't know. Like extra actions is great if you're playing a character that can get like 3 charges on this. You're basically paying 2 money in an action to net gain 2 actions. All right, that's not that good.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to, because you could play this in Carolyn, right? And earlier we were saying like, oh, Carolyn sometimes has a lot of cards. And if you were already doing that, if you were building like Synergy Carolyn, maybe you would like this. But I don't know. It feels like I'm trying to figure out like what is the kind of main reason. Like, are you playing this to do action compression, which can be okay in some circumstances. That tends to be better for Guardians. It's a bummer that you can only use it once per turn. Are you playing this because you're trying to use it as like a Sixth Sense style thing where you get to use your agility or you get to use your willpower to like investigate or whatever instead of because like Lily, the thing is Lily's combat is higher than her willpower usually, right? So she would only care about the replacing the stat for if she needed to like and her agility normally is as high as her willpower also, right?
Lily
So
can't
it would
Lily can't
basically
even
be for
take
like
this.
investigating for her.
Yeah, it's level 1, so Lily can't even take this. So it's
Oh yeah.
who specs into Mystic? Norman, I guess, in this pack.
Yeah.
It's also Sister
Norman.
Mary.
Yeah. So I don't know. The use case for me is like, oh, it's you need to do some evades and use your willpower. Or I guess Norman if he like really needs to punch a rat or something.
It's just it's tricky because
Play
like
a rat?
mystics have like blinding light, ethereal form, mists of Ryla. They have other ways to do a sword cane. They have other ways to do an occasional evasion, and they have other ways to get clues that are probably better than this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, getting free actions is not nothing, and action compression is cool. So like maybe this will find a home somewhere, but it's hard for me to see where.
Yeah, I guess like the high end is like you get 6 charges on it, right?
Yeah,
or 5 charges on it.
Yeah, the 5 is the most you can get, right?
I guess if you're Akachi, you get an additional one, right?
Yeah, but Akachi only
Can't play
has. It'd be
She's
very.
stuff.
It's really a bummer that Lily can't play this because I keep mentally like thinking it actually might be okay for Lily if she's trying to use the Dragon Pole.
Oh, because she can fight. Yeah.
I mean, what if you're playing like Dragon Pole Diana or something? Because like it is. I mean, you are getting extra actions to maybe like, but you can't use the extra action to activate the Dragon Pole. Is the bummer? Yeah.
I feel like there's only one experience, so I mean it's not that powerful. If you're in a class that can get 5 charges out of it, and like you want to use it to like do some evades or occasionally investigate or something you couldn't normally do, then maybe use it. But I don't know. I think this is a hard one to find a home for.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a Kachi solo or like some.
But it gives like 1 charge to Akachi. I mean, there's like 4 occult cards that are something that she can take or whatever.
Well, maybe if you're Akachi with Bob Jenkins and he's already given you a whole bunch of random crap. We're trying too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
let's
right.
move on to the next one. This is
Hot dog.
I was initially very excited about this one. I'm a little less excited now. So we have a mystic event called Winds of Power, which is level 1, costs 2, has 2 willpower icons on it. It's a spirit, and it says place 2 charges on an asset you control. Reaction after you draw Winds of Power during your turn, play it.
So it's just like Cryptic Writings, right?
It is, although Cryptic Writings is free, right?
Yeah.
Because I was initially so excited too. I was like, oh man, Cryptic Writings is like honestly an incredible card, right?
It's
so good.
It even has the same stats, right? It's got 2
like the 2 willpower is great. And I was just thinking like, recharge level 4 is so cool because it's like now you can actually put charges back on things as a mystic, which previously there was not really an efficient way to do it. And it's like, oh, here's another way to do that, which is probably even cooler than recharge 4.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be like a rich mystic to play this.
Yeah.
There's also just the fact that Cryptic Writings, one of the reasons it's so good is the Seekers draw so many cards. it is highly likely that you can draw it during your turn and play it without spending an action.
Yeah.
With Mystics, you're not drawing as much, so maybe it's like a lower probability that you draw it during your turn, and you might have to actually just not be able to play it.
I think it's like
fast.
Dexter, right? Dexter has Lucky Cigarette Case, so he's going to be drawing cards.
Yeah.
But he also like doesn't want extra charges on his assets because he wants to like use them up as fast as possible, then turn them into a Mr. David Renfield or whatever.
Because you could just play more copies of the arcane slot assets that you want to put charges on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not in all cases. Like you can't play more copies of Grotesque Statue, or if there's a really specific one that you really like. If you're like, I'm a Clairvoyance level 5 deck. I'm not saying it's terrible. I think it actually might be pretty decent. It's just like the 2 in the corner is really scary to me, and I think you'd have to like be pretty sure that you could afford it.
I mean, I'm thinking about it for Gloria multiplayer. At least the deck I'm playing in Return of the Circle Undone right now. She basically just has scrying as her only spell, and like being able to refill that so she can scry every single turn and manipulate the encounter deck every single turn fully is great. I don't have much else I spend money on, so I think I'd be able to afford it there.
Can I tell you the secret deck that this actually might be pretty awesome in?
I want to see if it's the same thing as my secret deck that I just thought of.
If you're gonna do Mystic Mandy with Pendant, the Pendant has charges on it, right? And now you can no longer just cycle it every other turn, because now you have to find a way to put charges on it.
Yep.
Mystic Mandy can play this card. She's gonna draw it during her turn, or find it off Mr. Rook during her turn. I mean, Mystic Mandy, I think currently is like the worst version of Mandy, maybe of the 3, but like it could get better if they print more cards that are good in it. So,
I mean, I was thinking of it for Daisy. You just use it to put charges back on your glyphs, your guiding stones, right?
Or just like power, just knowledge is power all the time.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, maybe a card that's better in Seeker than it is in.
I still like this card. I think I was too down on it when we first started talking about it. Yeah. I think it's gonna be fun. It's cool. Anything that's fast is like kind of fun,
Yeah, for sure.
Also, the art on this is beautiful, right?
It's mega cool. Kachi doing some cool stuff.
She's doing like some type of spell thing going on, but then the background, like the lake and the sunset, dope. I like it a lot.
Those are cool trees.
Yeah. All right. Next card.
Next card is Foresight. It is a level 1 Mystic event. Costs 0 to play. 2 int symbols on it. It's an augury. Fast. Play when an investigator at your location would draw a card from their deck or from the encounter deck. Name a card. If the drawn card is the named card, that investigator may either choose one, cancel that card's effects and discard it, or immediately play that card at -2 cost. So this card, staple in Gloria, right? This is like the Gloria card. Interestingly enough, I think that this is the strongest ward ability in the game now, because this can ward enemies, it can ward weaknesses, any kind of weakness on somebody's deck, as long as you have that knowledge prior to you. I think that's like what it's predicated off of, and that's where its balance is.
Yeah, like that's the trick, right? Is if you know what you're gonna draw, then this is very powerful.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use this outside of Gloria, but I haven't really tried using any of like scrying or anything outside of Gloria.
So Norman, some of the cards that Norman might play, like scrying, let him look at either the top card of the encounter deck or his deck.
Oh wait, but Norman he's always looking at the top card of his deck.
He literally
he's always looking. Yeah, exactly. But he can already play the top card of his deck at a smaller cost.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. At -1.
I mean, this lets him do it like during. Well, no, because he has to be about to draw that card to play this.
Right. So like if he's already used his ability in a round, and the next card that comes up is something he wants to play, he could use this to play it during upkeep at -2 cost.
And it's double intellect icons, and it costs 0, so it's sort of like low opportunity cost to put in. Yeah, I think in Gloria or Norman it could be fun. The bottom line though is like if you don't have a efficient way to look at the top of these decks that you're already going to play, then you probably shouldn't play this, because it's probably just going to whiff if you try to guess, right?
Yeah.
There's that crap. What's her name? She's a mystic ally who gives 1 intellect, and you can just at any point in
Alyssa?
time. Yeah,
Is
Alyssa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alyssa Graham. Yeah, like I think there's probably a pretty solid like Gloria Alyssa Graham deck that might play
Yeah.
this.
Oh
Because
yeah,
you can just always look at the top card, right?
yeah.
At any point in time, just exhaust her, look at the
Well,
top
yeah.
card. You
You
know
look
what
at
it
the
is.
you have to look at the top two actually.
Oh, that's right,
With
'cause of
Gloria.
There
Gloria.
was, I think I saw a deck on Arkham DB someone made that was like a Gloria solo deck that was, or maybe it was just a review of the Gloria card that was saying
God.
like
Gl-
Gloria is actually secretly one of the best solo investigators in the game because
she-
Oh,
you
yeah.
you can just entirely wreck the encounter deck and then
Yeah.
just run through the scenario
For
pretty
sure.
easily.
She
Yeah.
seems to me like she'd be incredible in solo, and I'm playing her in like a 4-player, and she's doing like pretty good. And in solo, I think it'd be amazing.
it definitely like piqued my interest. Like I definitely
Yeah.
want to try Gloria now.
So
Yeah. This card, can you put this on Diana, or does it need to be a spell? I don't remember how Diana works. Because like
I
you
think
could just
it
like
has-
pump this on Diana and continue to put secrets on Diana and
I
just
think-
have foresight for the rest of the game.
I think
Diana
Diana is.
it has to be a spell.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, but yeah,
damn.
this can cancel a lot of stuff.
It can cancel
Load about once.
everything, right? In
Yeah.
the game.
Not well.
And
There's a
unless-
couple cards that specifically say can't be canceled or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
But literally anything else.
yeah.
Weaknesses, whatever it is, it's gone.
It's
Items?
we
Counter?
were also well, and it's cool because Gloria's weakness is pretty annoying because it like forces you to draw one of the cards that's under her or something, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
maybe play this.
It's not that annoying from
Well,
my experience so far.
But I mean, it might be if you've like bottomed like 3 Ancient Evils, then
Yeah.
you might be able to. I don't know. It's not that bad. Yeah, I also we mentioned this earlier, or we were talking about this earlier. This is like maybe my pick for the best art of the set. This is
Yeah, fantastic.
really. It's also funny because when we just interviewed MJ and Jeff a couple episodes ago, there was a lot of talk about the like art that is mostly focused on somebody's eyes as like a thing that they do a lot.
It's like a trope.
And this is
Art
even
trope.
by Pavel Kolomayets, who I think is the same artist that did the Mind's Eye, like some of
Yep.
the other eye art we were talking about. So that's kind of it's a fun continuation of that series, I guess.
He did Winds of Power too, the card that we just talked about.
Mm.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next card. I said. Oh, my computer's lagging a bit. I'm sure it's fine. All right, Occult Theory. This is level 1 Mystic Skill card, Practice Expert. While Occult Theory is in your hand or commit to a skill test, it gains willpower icons equal to your intellect and intellect icons equal to your willpower. And there's an old man in the art with an interesting hat and beard. Also, some type of symbol burned into his flesh.
Yeah, that's not a tattoo, right? That's some kind
No,
of like,
It's like
is,
a burn.
Yeah, that's.
art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of the
It's like
correct
Star
term.
David to me.
yeah.
With some like other
It's
things.
Star David. It has like an ankh in the middle, and I
Oh,
can't
really?
quite tell what's around it. But I mean, obviously, he's also carrying like 11 books. That's a dangerous number of books because it's greater than 0.
There's just like a lot going on here. .jpg.
Yeah.
is what I'm
Yeah.
getting out of this.
This is like the card for Norman / Gloria, right? Like this is Marie. Anybody who has 4 or 5, like 4 will, 5 intellect.
Yeah,
Ridiculous amount of symbols.
yeah. If you're planning to do intellect or will tests as most of your game, then it's a huge boost for like either some high difficulty check you want to do.
It's just the same caveat supply that we mentioned when we talked about the Guardian. One of these is that you could just play something like Pop if you can play purple cards usually, or you could play if you're going to be using the willpower side of this most of the time, you might be able to just play like upgraded guts. So you definitely have other options that might be better, but there's definitely multiple investigators in the game for which this is like a lot of willpower and intellect symbols.
Yeah. So I don't know. It might be like good as like a one of in some of those decks.
I feel like this might have been all right for your Luke deck when we did this when we streamed Dream Eaters, Ben, because Luke has pretty high numbers in both of those stats, and we were trying to get clues without having to just actually like straight up investigate with intellect, but there were definitely times where we kind of tried to do that, and it would have been helpful to have this kind of thing.
This is also good in like Gloria, because she kind of bounces between willpower and agility, or willpower and intellect, and maybe Marie too. Is Marie also that? And Norman.
Marie's 4 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys kind of try to do willpower for some stuff and intellect for other stuff. Well, they can at least.
Like so many stats. It's like basic. I think this is like in the tier of expert, where like if you have to do a skill test in expert mode, this is like the kind of thing that you would need the symbols for, like on Norman or on like Gloria or Marie, where you can get above like a -6 or whatever.
Yeah, it does say expert right on the card. So...
Yeah, it gets better the higher the difficulty you go for sure.
Yeah.
Let's move on though to okay, we have an upgrade of a card that I immediately forgot about, which is Parallel Fates. So this is a level 2 Mystic event, cost 0. It has a willpower icon and a wild icon. It is an augury, a lot of auguries in this. Same with the Jacqueline deck. I think lots of auguries. Look at the top 6 cards in an investigator's deck or the encounter deck. You may either return them to the top of that deck in any order or shuffle them into that deck. If you looked at an investigator's deck, that investigator may draw 1 card. So compared to the level 0 version, we gained a willpower icon. We are now looking at the top 6 cards instead of the top 4, and previously we could only pick the encounter deck. Now we can pick investigator deck or encounter deck. And any investigator, doesn't even have to be at your location. And the previous one, you had to draw a symbol, and if it was a spooky symbol, you would shuffle them in. Otherwise, you'd return them to the top in any order. Now you just get to kind of freely choose. So
you get the card.
I would say this is I would say this is kind of a case of like a previously completely unplayable card. Now like they've tried really hard to improve it in like multiple different dimensions, and it's certainly it's a lot more powerful than the previous one. Is it actually good now though? What do you guys think?
It's good in Gloria.
Yeah, I didn't put regular Parallel Fates in Gloria because I thought it was too unreliable.
Right.
And now I would put level 2 in her because I could use it to look at the encounter deck if I don't have my other cards activated, my Scrying or my Scroll of Secrets or Alyssa. But using it on another investigator is also pretty strong. Because maybe there's someone that like is a couple cards short of what they want, or is like really needs a critical card. You could use it to dig 6 cards. That's pretty alright.
I guess it's basically like a non-fast no stone unturned level, the level 0 version of it.
Yeah.
Because it basically looks in the top 6 cards of someone's deck and it can pick something out for them. But it leaves the deck in the state afterwards. So like yeah, I mean that's one way to think about it is if you're playing cards like Foresight or your Norman, Norman gets to look at it anyway, but if you like knowing what the top card of your deck is, this means that for like, up to 6 turns, if you remember, you can kind of like always know what the top card of your deck is.
That's true. It is pretty cool in Norman.
Well, but Norman can already know what the top card of his deck is.
Well, but this lets him know what the next like 6 cards are, so he can plan around like which ones he's gonna draw during upkeep versus which ones he's gonna play. I think there's some play there. Maybe it'd be pretty hard to optimize, but
I still think there is a serious risk of this being a card that doesn't do anything, like Stargazing, which is a category of Mystic cards that exists. Like Dane mentioned that you could do cards that don't do anything. Tribal, that'd be an interesting deck. Dane mentioned that like you have other cards like Alyssa Graham and Scrying that can also look at the top of your deck. So I would argue that most of those are maybe better than this, and so maybe you don't need this. But I mean, this is kind of cool. I don't think it's like totally crazy to play 1 or 2 of these in a Gloria deck.
I think it's an option. I mean, worst case, you can commit it for 2 will. I mean, that's not end of the world. So it has a lot of options. Each individual effect is decent. None of them are crazy. But yeah, in Gloria, I think I'd actually play this. Because it could be
like this is the last turn. I have 7 cards left in my deck. I really want to try to find the delve. Like there's ways that you could use it, sort of like a budget no stone unturned kind of like. Yeah.
Well, again, I'm playing with Safina and Finn are 2 of my partners in the Return to Circle I've done, and both of them have very annoying weaknesses that reshuffle into their deck. So this could be a good way to when they're getting low on cards, of like, oh, why don't I just put that on the bottom of your deck for you to get rid of.
Oh man, yeah, Gloria. I just thought Gloria with Foresight is a really good way to deal with those weaknesses that like go back in the deck, or like Rex's weakness or something that's just like impossible to get rid of. Sorry, random tangent.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes it more tempting to look at other people's decks. So far, I've never done that. Gloria, I just always encounter deck every time. I'm like, oh yeah, I could use scrying, I guess, to look at the top of your deck and get rid of your doomed Finn. Or I could look at the encounter deck, So
yeah, and it is also, again, like if you're playing Foresight, which we said earlier was like pretty good if you could know what the top card of things is, then like if you play this, you can just know, like, suppose you're in a 3-player game, you can basically know what the encounter deck looks like for the next 2 turns. So you could put something so that, okay, next turn I'm going to play Foresight and ward my encounter card because I'm going to know what it is and I know it's an Ancient Evils. So there are fun interactions like that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Let's move on though, unless you guys have more to say.
No,
this is another card that I'm particularly excited about. So this is the Astronomical Atlas. This is a level 3 mystic asset, costs 3 to play, has a will symbol and 2 intellect symbols on it. It's an item and a tome. As a fast action, exhaust Astronomical Atlas. Look at the top card of your deck. If it's not a weakness, attach it face down to Astronomical Atlas. Max 5 cards attached. As a separate fast action, commit a card attached to Astronomical Atlas to an eligible skill test. If that test succeeds, add that card to your hand instead of discarding it. It takes up 1 hand slot. This is the Norman card we've all been waiting for, right? Like, this combos so well with his new book, right? His new signature card, because the biggest issue with Norman, at least to some extent anyway, is skill cards. Like, if a skill card's at the top of your deck, it's dead, right? So with his signature card, he can pull it into his hand, or with this, he can tuck it into the Astronomical Atlas and use it later.
Yeah, I mean, Norman likes stuff that lets him manipulate his deck in general, and this being able to activate skill cards is great for him, I think. So yeah, I feel like
you just love this because this is basically like Purple Crystallizer of Dreams. This is like Astronomicalizer of Atlas Dreams. Only it doesn't summon a magical star jellyfish to fight you. So
it's also Bookmark.
This lets you use the skill twice, right? Or I guess
although man, it's just out of range for Patrice. That's too bad. That would be really fun.
Well, yeah, you're right. It is a Crystallizer of Dreams, except it's the opposite and doesn't add weaknesses to your deck.
Yeah, exactly. No jellyfish included. This seems incredibly fun in Norman. Like, I feel like half the reason to play a Norman deck now is to like get to the point where you're just rocking this card all the time, because this is going to be so much fun. Oh shit, you can even have 2 of these out.
You can.
Yeah.
Jesus. You have 3 technically, because you can have that one card that gives you additional spots for tomes.
Well, but you'd have to get a 3rd copy of it somehow from somebody else.
You'd have to teamwork.
Well, I mean, like 2 Astronomical Atlas and your Leave for Day.
Oh yeah.
Your signature card.
Oh, is that a hand slot? Yeah, I guess it's playbook. Yeah. So.
But like that and this paired together are, I think it's just so powerful. Like that's just such a great mixture of hand slot items.
Yeah, just it seems generally good and particularly strong in Norman. But I mean, other mystics can make good use of this too, right? Because it just grabs the top card of your deck and you can commit it to something and use it later. So
we talk a lot around here about how like mystics and guardians are the classes that have trouble drawing stuff. But if you can just like manage to snag a level 2 guts off the top of your deck with this, and then commit it, and then commit it again, you're off to the races. Like,
it's kind of like practice makes perfect in that way, right? Because if you succeed it, you get it back in your hand. You use it right again.
It's less predictable, but you can try to make that happen if you play Parallel Fates, right? So I also this is some really beautiful Disney's Treasure Planet ass art.
That is so true.
Really working for me. I love this.
Yeah. Luke can play this too, right? Luke can play this with like deduction level 2 or some shit.
Oh yeah.
He can do like actually like intellect builds and just do like weird stuff.
Luke also can read the book that takes you to space. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I love this card. Very cool.
And this book looks very closed, so even Ben might not be scared of it because it looks like you can gain the benefit just by holding it, with maybe you don't actually have to read anything.
That's true. It actually looks like it has a complex lock to open it, which is good. You always want to have books secure so people don't read them by accident. So yeah, I do approve of that. That's right. Anyways, seems great.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Let's go on to the next card, which I think I'm reading, right? Yeah. So Healing Words. The upgraded version we didn't see in Return to the Circle Undone. It is level 3 version. It costs 2 still. It has 2 willpower icons. It's a spell. Uses 4 charges. Spend 1 charge. Heal 2 damage from among investigators at your location. Same upgrade path as Clarity of Mind, right?
Yeah, it's like exactly the same. Yeah.
And makes it a playable card because it is actual one charge to do 2 healing rather than 1 healing, which is terrible. So
yeah, among investigators your location, right? This is like Parallel Agnes card all the way, right?
Yeah,
Parallel Agnes is gonna love it.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward. If you want to heal damage, this is like a fairly efficient way to do it. It has enough charges when it comes out that heals it fast enough that it's actually playable and usable. So.
I think for other uses for it, like if you have Mark in your group, maybe that might be cool.
Sure.
You know, if there's, it's hard to think of any other cases where it's like this would definitely be worth a slot, but I mean, there are at least some niche cases where like this is definitely a solid card, and yeah, the previous version was just not really worth playing at all, but this one's like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Mystics and most Mystics have low health, right? So it's nice for them to have an option to heal if they're worried about that.
They usually just run Deny Existence though, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Because this, I mean, the same reason that you don't often play Clarity of Mind is just it does take up one of your arcane slots, so it makes it harder to have that like shriveling type spell plus Rite of Seeking type spell combo.
Yeah. Also,
I mean,
again, there are decks where you do want it. You know,
I mean, if you're running Lily and you're not using your Rite of Seeking in those types of spells, like Lily might want something to fill her arcane slots. Maybe
Lily can't take the upgraded version.
You're right. God,
I know. All right, let me have a big glowing count in the corner of the screen. It's the number of times we forget how the Normanoids work. It would be up to like 4 or 5 by now, I think.
All right, let me try again. Maybe Gloria, because she only runs Scrying, so maybe she wants something else. Arcane slot. I don't know.
It's kind of tough because both Marie and Akachi can take occult things, which means that they can take Helamir, and that's just like you wouldn't take this if you could take Valamir.
Well, you know, maybe you want to use up the accessory slot. I don't know.
But there's also, this is again just more fuel for down the rabbit hole, right? Like more stuff that you can upgrade into, and that's nice to like kind of have a path to it for down the rabbit hole.
When in doubt, chuck it down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Let's finish these strong. We only got 2 more cards left. So we have a upgraded version of Grounded, which is the purple composure.
You're grounded.
So this is a level 0. This is a level 3 asset, cost 0, 2 wild icons. It says fast, limit 1 composure in play. You get +1 skill value during skill tests on spell cards. Non-direct damage horror must be assigned to Grounded before it can be assigned to your investigator card. Free trigger during a skill test on a spell card. Expend 1 resource. You get +1 skill value for this test, and it has 2 health and 2 sanity. So compared to the previous version, it's level 3 instead of level 1. It's cost 0 instead of cost 1. Instead of a willpower icon, it has 2 wild icons, and it has that passive +1 skill value during skill test on spell cards, and it gained 2 health and 1 sanity. Previously, it had no health and 1 sanity. So it's kind of just like they upgraded all the stuff on it by a little bit, and they gave it that passive bonus.
I feel like this one is good, right? If you're playing spell cards, it's a +1 to everything that you do, which is for Mystics. Like almost all the tests they do are spell cards.
But the thing is, almost all of those tests are already will tests. So and you already
5 or 6 or whatever.
and you already have so many things that can just boost your will. Like you've already got the Rosary or St. Hubert's Key. You've got Peter. You've got Dr. David Renfield's PhD. Like, I mean, I'm not saying this is bad because I think this might be kind of decent, but it's like, yeah, you've just already got a lot of other ways to make it easy to pass spell tests. Because they're all will tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is free, and it does have 2 icons on it.
Maybe Diana, if she doesn't want to worry about having to crank up her willpower really fast, she uses it to boost some of her stuff. I like that it's 2 health, 2 sanity, because it makes it a little bit easier to keep alive without having soak, but you still probably want to have soaks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also it's in the class that has deny existence. So if there's just like a random treachery that's going to screw you over, arrows from the trees or something, you could use that.
Yeah. I think this is not very good in Norman though. He doesn't. He might use like an attack spell or something, but he's probably just doing regular investigates. So it's kind of a weird include in this pack for him. And unlike most of the Mystic cards, it's not good for Gloria either, because she's also probably not doing too much with spells. So
yeah,
but
yeah, it's hard to pick the specific deck that would use it, but I don't think it's a bad card.
Yeah, like I think it's like a generic card you could put in any Mystic deck that uses spells, and you could probably get some benefit out of it.
Maybe like if you're playing like Mind's Eye or something like that, like because you're gonna want to transfer like all of your miscellaneous tests to like doing Mind's Eye stuff. Like if Norman has Mind's Eye or something like that, and like he can shore up his like really bad agility tests and like other tests with like his will using Mind's Eye, that also counts for that. Yeah.
I don't know. Don't have too much more to say. What do you guys think? Last card.
Again, I love the flavor. Flavor of these composures is always neat. This one's balanced, so it's 2 and 2 because you're grounded spiritually. So
I like anything that's got like a Gordon Liu ass 36 chamber of Shaolin ass 8 diagram pole fighter ass dude on it in front of a mountain. That's my shit for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Final card.
Final card
for today.
Take us there.
Are you ready to see some true magic? This card's called True Magic. It's a unique card. I think the first one we've seen in this pack. Reworking Reality. It is a level 5 asset for Mystics. Costs 4 to play. 2 will icons on it. 1 wild icon on it. It is an item, a relic, and a tome. Uses 1 charge. That's terrible. But wait, there's more. Replenish this charge at the start of each round. Hey, that's pretty cool. You may resolve abilities on spell assets in your hand by revealing them from your hand. Treat True Magic as if it were the revealed asset. To pay for its cost, spend charges, perform its effect, etc. It takes up a hand and an arcane slot. This card is the most I've been excited to play Ursula in a while.
What?
Ursula?
Walk us through this, Dane, please.
You can use True Magic to have infinite guiding stones.
You could also just use Knowledge as power. Just use the best card in the game. Just use the card that should have been banned like 18 months ago instead.
I mean, this seems like a neat card because it like gives you really extra charges and stuff. You don't have to play that other stuff. You just have to you could just play one of these. I guess if you have 3 actions in a turn, maybe you do need some other stuff, but it gets you extra charges. Obviously,
yeah. I mean, it like the replenish. What I take replenish to mean is that at the start of each round, if it doesn't have any charges on it, you add 1. Right? Yeah. But you could play a level 4 recharge and add like 4 charges to it.
Changed,
right?
Yeah.
Ursula can't take this, Dane. Lord Batboy. This 0 to 4 relics only.
Why? Why 0 to 4?
Oh, that's so fun. I'm sorry, Dane, but that is really fun.
Oh, it's a reality check for Ursula players everywhere.
And honestly, like again, guiding stones is the kind of thing you really only have to use like 4 or 5 times per game anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, this seems really fun. Like this feels to me like what was that Netrunner icebreaker that could host other icebreakers and people would play it in
Baba
Professor
Yaga.
decks? Yeah, this is like a big rig. Like, yes, this is gonna take a long time to set up and it's gonna be awkward, but it's gonna be really fun and cool. This is that kind of card.
Okay, I can respect that. Yeah, no, this is kind of a builder on me card, right? Like Necronomicon. This is like you kind of like I guess you could just play a reg spell deck and then just benefit from it.
I don't know if it even really is. Like you just play the same Shriveling and Rite of Seeking stuff that you normally play, but you also have this. And once you get this out, then you probably just use this all. And I guess the advantage is you don't have to worry about charges. You could also just play recharge level 4 and not worry about charges, but this is cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is neat.
The trick with this is though, like it is only once per turn if you don't have other ways to dump charges on it. So
yeah. I mean, you could. It's not like you can't play other. Or you have another arcane slot. So if there's something that you do want to use multiple times per turn, there's things like in a 3-player game like Rite of Seeking or Clairvoyance. Often you're using it exactly once per turn anyway. So and instead of like running out of charges on it, which you would normally do, you would just use this.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And yeah, if you do want to have like I want to have a Shriveling out and I want to be able to just dump all the charges in one turn, then maybe you actually play the Shriveling.
Yeah. Interesting card.
I think it's really cool. I don't think it's like incredibly great. I think it's one of these sort of like very XP heavy, win more fun kind of cards more than like a thing that's really going to help you win the game. But it does seem really fun.
If you use this with the upgraded sign magic, can you like use this to reveal?
I'm going to refrain from answering any interactions between True Magic and Sign Magic. There's currently a document that who's it? Veronica from Until the End of Time is compiling in Google Docs. There is a it's like 2/3 of a page on True Magic to try to send MJ the questions specifically with True Magic interacting with Sign Magic.
It really it just the rules wise it's very weird, right? Because like
for sure,
how do you actually activate it, right? Like I guess you reveal a card, but is that part of the cost? Like it feels weird.
You just reveal a card and then you're activating it as if it was that ability. It's also an as if, which is the worst rule in the game.
This is honestly one of the things that makes Arkham Horror the card game a really fun game to play, is that there's a lot of ideas that the developers come up with for cards that if they were designing like Magic or even Netrunner or something, they would probably get to the point where they say it's too hard to template. There's no way to make the rules work consistently. We just can't do it. And in this game, they're like, yeah, sure, let's just do it, because it's not a competitive game, right? There's not like money on the line in tournaments. So it's like, we can probably mostly define how this is going to work, and we can count on the players to like be cool and make it work. And that's really fun.
And if there's like anything egregious, we can just like taboo like what we This is like kind of that level 5 thing that's like definitely worth being level 5, right? Like this is the kind of thing that changes the game in some way, or is really, really powerful, or that kind of thing. That kind of sort of
it reminds me of what it reminds me of is, what is it, Twyla Catherine Price or whatever?
Exactly.
It's a similar, like, it's an expensive mystic asset where the dream is like you just never run out of charges on something. And I played Twyla in one campaign, and it was pretty fun. I wouldn't say it was like made my deck way, way better, but it was kind of a cool, you feel like kind of powerful when you're playing it.
Sure,
yeah.
This is probably the worst thing to have Crypt Shield. But yeah.
Well, I still think like Leo, the turn after you play Leo, is the worst thing.
I mean, if you're a mystic, hopefully you don't fail Crypt Shell, but autofill exists. So,
or I think like Jenny's guns after you dump like 25 resources, some of them.
This is at least on that list, right? Somebody has to. Speaking of people compiling lists, come on, somebody has to make that list.
Or
have Crypt Shield.
I guess Duke actually might be the worst thing to have.
Oh yeah, that's also fair. I think that's probably the reason why Ashcan has 4. Will.
So his dog doesn't get cold.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to.
It's true.
Wow. Well, that was a lot of cards, and
yeah.
we're gonna be back in 2 weeks to talk about an equal number of cards. So,
Yeah, these streams I think are going to go a little longer than normal. So for folks who normally enjoy our hour-long content, just break it up.
or just set it to 1.5 times speed or whatever people normally do. I still think that's weird, but a lot of people do it. So go nuts.
Yeah.
All right, Dane.
Fair. Well, yeah.
Take us out, Dane.
Anybody else excited to play with these cards? Who wants to jump on somebody like a Hound of Tindalus and murder them? Come hang out with us in our Discord and tell us about it. Dan's making an advertisement here. Reach out to us on Facebook, Reddit, or Instagram, or email us at comments@MUR.fm. If you really love our show and want to get more involved, join us on patreon.com/Miskatonic University Radio to get access to exclusive Discord channels and other fun stuff, or just leave us a nice review on your favorite podcasting network. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Be safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you, friends.